Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today I'm going to tell you about all the books I read and didn't read in January. So to recap January, I read 5 books, 1 audiobook, 2 ebooks, and then 2 physical books. I really feel like this was a good reading month for me. I'm very happy with my progress and I want to just like keep building upon that for February. So, first book that I finished this year was The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. This was a 4-star book for me. What a way to start off a series. I liked how each novella kind of like bled into each other. It still had this very overarching kind of mystery and theme to it, and I'm just so excited to get into this more. I really liked the characters. Selena is a very interesting and dynamic young woman, and I'm about 30 pages into Throne of Glass now, which I'll talk about in a minute, but this was the first book I read of the year and it was 4 stars. The second book that I read, I believe, was Flawless by Elsie Silver. This was also a 4-star read for me. It takes a lot for me to like really feel like I like a romance novel, and maybe I'm just in the mood for romance novels, but the reason why I kind of picked up the Elsie Silver like Chestnut Spring series was I was watching, I believe it was Larry on YouTube, and she was talking about how like Elsie Silver must put something in the books because they are like crazy good, and like the booktube people that I have been watching for a little bit all really like the Chestnut Spring series, so I was like, oh, it's on Kindle Unlimited, let me just like start it. I was hooked. I was so hooked. I really liked Rhett and Summer. I think that they were so cute together. I think it's a really good way to kind of like start out the Chestnut Springs series. I was just completely enamored. So I gave that one 4 stars. The only thing I didn't really like was the third act conflict, which I don't know. I just think that the way that it went about wasn't really within character for wasn't in character for like what happened, but recovered. Still a really good book. Still very happy to continue on with the series. The next book that I read was The City of Mist by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and this book, when I tell you, is a slender beast. This is not one that you can just sit down and read all the way through. This probably took me about 2 weeks to read, and like I read other books. I'm not a monogamous reader by any means, but this book is so beautiful. I loved it. I gave it, I think, 4 stars, only because there were certain things that like I just didn't understand, and this is from his like series, The Cemetery of Forgotten Books, and I definitely want to delve into that more. And I just want to read you a couple quotes that this one's from the first, they're all the stories in here are like super short. Obviously it's a short book, but every afternoon I told myself that I wasn't going to forget her and that so long as I remembered her, I'd be able to save her. Anselmo Giordano never forgave Leonardo because a man can forgive everything except being told the truth. A skyscraper is simply a cathedral for people who, instead of believing in God, believe in money. Like, I hope that I know that, like, those were super out of context, and those were all from different stories in this book, but oh my goodness, I'm in love with this, and I want to read more of Zafón's writing, for sure. And then, the next book that I finished is also the start of a series, so I guess I'm just starting out so many series this year. Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. If you like The Handmaid's Tale and want to read more of Margaret Atwood's work, here it is right here. You have to read this. I don't think this is one of her more popular series, and like honestly I don't know why, because this book is so good. So if you know anything about Margaret Atwood's writing, you kind of just get plopped in and you just have to keep reading so that you get more information on what the heck is going on. It probably took me about 20% of this book to understand kind of what was happening, because you just don't know. And it's kind of told in a dual timeline a little bit, because our main character is Snowman, but he used to go by Jimmy, and it very much kind of talks about Jimmy's life and how he ended up becoming Snowman, sort of thing. And so this is book 1 of the Mad Addams trilogy, and I just bought the other 2. I'm so excited. I don't think they're interconnected standalones, but this is like a full story. Like, this could probably stand on its own as a standalone. But I'm really excited to kind of get into the second and third book and kind of see where this goes. I did listen to this on audiobook, but I do have one quote that I'm going to read for you that I literally tore through the book to find when I heard it. "The best diseases, from a business point of view," said Craik, "would be those that cause lingering illnesses, ideally, that is, for maximum profit. The patient should either get well or die just before all of his or her money runs out. It's a fine calculation." So this is, I feel like I didn't properly explain what this book is about. It's about a kind of like dystopian alternative future United States where basically people who were in charge just kind of, like, basically scientists are in charge and they basically take the world for a ride. What does it say? "Powerful corporations took mankind on an uncontrolled genetic engineering ride." So it's just, it's crazy, but it's wonderful, and I loved it. This was my first 5-star read of the year, and I think that everyone should read it, especially if you like The Handmaid's Tale or any sort of alternative fiction. I don't think I can recommend this book enough, and I hope that the other 2 are just as good. Okay, and then the last book that I finished for January was Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is Cade and Willa's story. This was a 5-star read. Mostly because of the ending. It did make me cry. It made me cry for my own personal reasons. Having someone really step up and like be the parent that a child deserves is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, because my father did that for me. And so kind of like seeing this book and the way that Willa's like second nature is to just care and love and give love. Sorry, I'm gonna cry. It just reminds me a lot of like my own father and the way that he just like loved me, and I think everyone deserves that. Oh gosh. So like for my own personal like ties with the book, I gave this a 5 stars. There were certain things that I didn't like about it, and I'm gonna talk about those when I calm down. Okay, sorry. I'm okay now. Whew. So one thing that I didn't like about this book is the way in which they talked about Cade's first wife, Talia. And the reason why I didn't like it, not because Talia was a good person that was like turned sour, all this stuff, like I don't like the trope in books where it's a divorced man and he got married not loving his first wife. I think that that perpetuates a stereotype that is very harmful. Because essentially they have this whole discussion about how he got married out of obligation. And this isn't the first book that I've read where a man got married out of obligation and he didn't really love his first wife. And I think that that's just kind of gross, and we're essentially supposed to feel bad for Cade in that way, and I don't think that's productive. I think that that's kind of, because the fact of the matter is you have to learn from that. And I think that they try to dive into like him learning from that, but at the same time it's also still like, oh well, he gave in and made a mistake and so he was performing his duty, and like I don't like that. Granted, they live in a small town and there are different expectations and all this stuff, but also fiction doesn't exist in a vacuum, and there's already a lot of rhetoric going around nowadays about how like men don't marry the love of their life, they marry who's ready, and then they basically don't do anything. And I've heard stories about that in my real life, and now we're writing it in fiction, and I don't like that, because to be the woman that he treats well after he doesn't treat his first wife well, and it's not that he treated her bad, but he didn't care. He didn't put effort or love into the relationship. Therefore, the relationship failed. And I could do a whole rant. I could probably do a 20-minute rant on that, but I'm gonna just try and hop off my soapbox. But like, I did not like that part of the book. I feel like it did not serve the plot very well. I feel like there's more to a marriage and there's more to a person's part than just like going to work, putting a roof over their head, and putting food on the table. A relationship is so much more than that. Being a parent is so much more than that. And basically he's like, well, why wasn't that enough for her? And it's, that's enough to survive, but that's not enough to thrive. Okay, I'm gonna be done now. Sorry. So now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit and talk about the books that I didn't finish in January. The books that were on my TBR that I just never got to, I didn't even pick up. So I'm just not even gonna mention those here. But I'm going to mention 3 books that I am like a little bit through. So let's just get started. I mentioned this earlier, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm on page 32. So, yeah, like I said before, I've just been kind of reading this a couple pages before bed and then I pass out, so I need to put some more time into this. I want to make sure that I read this before I forget too much about, like, what's going on and what happened in Assassin's Blade, but very excited. This is kind of on the top of my priority list to, like, make a priority, I guess. The next book is Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You? I know that a lot of people don't like this book, but Normal People by Sally Rooney is my favorite book of all time. So I checked out the ebook, or not the ebook, the audiobook from the library, and I've been listening to it. I'm only about 16% through it. I think I like listening to Sally Rooney's books on audio because she doesn't use quotation marks, which we all know by now. But I'm enjoying it so far. I want to see where it goes. A lot of Sally Rooney's books are very much character studies. You're in their head. You're like hearing their thoughts. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm not far enough into this book to tell, but I'm enjoying it enough to keep going. And then the last book I have is Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. According to Goodreads, I'm about 30% through this. Clearly, I've been like tabbing things that I find important. I think I just like snagged on an essay that I wasn't the biggest fan of. So I think what I want to do is maybe read a couple essays interdispersed throughout like reading my other books. Eventually I'll get through this. It's not a book where you just like sit down and read all the way through. So yeah, not too much on this. I am enjoying it. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, but fiction is so fun, and like there are so many essays and it's kind of daunting, and kind of have to be in the right headspace, because the thing about reading like feminist works is you have to be able to sit down and be in a good enough headspace to be able to absorb the knowledge rather than just get angry about what you're reading. It's about having the emotions that make it a productive read. For example, like I can read about how women are treated badly and I can get angry about it, and then I'm just kind of filled with rage that I don't really know where to put. Or I can read it, absorb it, and then I can know how to talk about it with people when it comes up, or when the appropriate times are, or when I want to have discussions with my best friend. So it's a matter of kind of being in the right headspace for something like this. And so I'm just gonna kind of keep chugging along. We'll get done with it when we get done with it. It's not a race, I guess is kind of what I'm saying. So yeah, those are all the books I read in January, and then the ones that I am currently reading and / didn't finish in January. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you're reading in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye!